The car radio shifts from talk to an old pop song, and before you can name the tune, your chest tightens. The highway disappears, and you are 14 again, standing on sun-heated pavement outside a friend's house. You can almost feel the weight of a backpack strap on one shoulder and taste the cheap orange soda you shared. The memory arrives fully assembled, as if the song opened a locked room you forgot existed. But here is the unsettling part. A moment ago, you could not have described that afternoon if someone paid you. The ordinary task of driving is now layered with an emotional intensity that does not belong to the present. Your hands stay on the wheel while your mind sits on a curb in a suburb you left decades ago. Something about the melody reached into you and retrieved a self you had not visited in years. This experience is not a trick of a wistful imagination. It is a reliable, well-documented psychological phenomenon. Music can unlock autobiographical memories that feel lost, and the question is why a sequence of sounds holds that power. The obvious answer points to nostalgia, and the fact that songs soundtrack important moments in our lives. That explanation is true enough, yet it stalls exactly where the mystery deepens. Many of us have songs tied to ordinary afternoons that were not especially meaningful when they happened. You did not choose that Tuesday to be a core memory, and yet the song installed it as one. The mechanism is not simply recording a highlight. It is something more subtle happening beneath conscious intention. To see it clearly, we have to separate two things: the memory itself and the cue that calls it back. A cue is anything that triggers a memory, and music is one of the most potent cues the brain ever encounters. When you first lived that afternoon, your brain was not just storing facts about the event. It was weaving together the taste, the heat, the laughter, the boredom, and the song into a single pattern of neural activity. Later, hearing the song again partially reactivates that original pattern, pulling the whole episode back toward awareness. This process depends on a simple principle. Items that are experienced together tend to become linked in memory. Psychologists call this associative binding, and it is the same process that makes the smell of sunscreen bring back a beach trip. But music has an advantage over scent or photographs because it unfolds in time and carries emotional structure. A song has a beginning, a build, a peak, and a resolution, which gives it a dramatic shape that mirrors how we experience events. That shape acts like a retrieval path. Each new note predicts the next, guiding the brain step by step toward the connected memory. The melody does not just remind you of the past. It leads you through the past in the order it was originally encoded. This temporal scaffolding is one reason a forgotten memory can return with such cinematic clarity. However, the clarity itself is the first sign that something more complicated is occurring. We tend to assume that a vivid memory is an accurate one, as if the mind were replaying a video recording. But memory is not a recording. It is a reconstruction that is rebuilt each time from whatever fragments remain. A familiar song does not retrieve a perfect copy of an afternoon. It provides a blueprint for reassembling a version of it. The emotional force of a music-evoked memory can make the reconstruction feel more real than the original event. To understand why, we need to follow the emotion deeper into the brain's memory systems. Emotionally arousing experiences tend to be remembered more vividly because certain brain regions tag them as significant. Music routinely produces strong emotional responses, even when the memory itself is not about something dramatic. A song can fill an ordinary Tuesday with longing, nostalgia, or sweetness that did not belong to the moment at the time. This intertwining of music and emotion helps explain why the memory feels so urgent, but it also plants the seeds of error. Research on autobiographical memory shows that our most vivid recollections often contain demonstrable inaccuracies. They feel true because the emotional center of the brain stamps them with a sense of significance, not because every detail is correct. So the song is not a perfect key to an untouched past. It is a powerful ingredient that the present moment uses to build a new version of the past. This leads to a sharper question. If music revives memories that were unreachable, where were they before the song began? They were not sitting in a neat file waiting to be opened. They had faded into what some researchers call the inactive trace. An inactive memory is like a path in a forest that has not been walked for years. The route still exists, but it is overgrown and hard to find. The song is not creating something from nothing. It is reactivating a weakened network of associations that had become too faint for deliberate recall. That is why you could not have described the afternoon moments earlier. The ordinary cues of daily life were not strong enough to find the old path. Music, with its unique combination of rhythm, pitch, and emotional contour, can access networks that words and willpower cannot reach. This restorative quality is part of why songs are used to help people with memory disorders reconnect with a sense of personal history. Even when other forms of memory falter, music can sometimes still find the overgrown path and light it up for a little while. But the lighting up is not a simple playback. It is an act of recreation that depends on who you are now. A song you hear at 14 is processed by a 14-year-old brain, with 14-year-old concerns, hormones, and social worlds. When you hear it again at 40, the same song travels through a different brain that carries decades of later experience. The memory that emerges is therefore a blend of the original event, the emotional coloring the song provides now, and every intervening time you heard the tune. If the song played during a painful breakup years later, that later association can quietly overwrite or tint the original memory without your noticing. What feels like a pure return to adolescence is actually a composite that your present mind has assembled from multiple sources. This is the deep complication. The memory the song unlocks was never locked in the first place. It was continuously reshaping. The song does not retrieve a fossil. It summons a living story that has been growing and changing all along. Now return to the car and the summer afternoon that seemed so photographically complete. Consider the soda can. Does it have a specific brand logo, or just the idea of cold aluminum against your palm? Consider your friend's face. Is it a clear portrait, or an emotional impression shaped by years of later distance? The moment you inspect the memory, you may notice that the sharp edges soften, and the vividness is carried more by feeling than by fact. The real revelation arrives when we ask why the brain would work this way, why it would trade accuracy for emotional richness. A perfectly accurate memory of every dull afternoon would be cognitively overwhelming and practically useless. The brain prioritizes meaning over detail, and music signals meaning even when the original event carried none. The song essentially says to the mind, "This moment was important. Treat it with care, even if you did not know it at the time." This explains the strange discovery that the memory's music retrieves are disproportionately from adolescence and early adulthood. Psychologists call this period the reminiscence bump, a phase of life when we are forming identity and accumulating the soundtrack that will define us. Songs from those years become permanently fused with who we were becoming, which gives them a special power to evoke the past later. Power is not in the song alone. It is in the meeting of music and an open, unfinished self in the process of formation. Central reversal is this. Music does not unlock a long-forgotten memory the way a key opens a box containing an unchanged object. Instead, music provides a scaffold on which the present self reconstructs a meeting with a former self, using emotion as the primary building material. The feeling of traveling back in time is genuine, but the vehicle is the music, and the passenger is who you are now, not who you were then. That is why the same song can feel different each time you hear it. The memory it helps build is always a negotiation between past and present. This insight does not weaken the experience. It deepens it by revealing the creative intelligence of memory itself. The climax of this exploration is not that music triggers memory like a button, but that music invites the mind to perform an act of collaborative storytelling. The song plays, and your brain begins to sketch, filling in gaps, amplifying feelings that mattered, and smoothing contradictions. You are not passively retrieving a file. You are actively composing a moment that feels more coherent than life usually allows. This explains why music-evoked memories often carry a sense of epiphany or resolution that the original event lacked. The song imposes a beginning, a middle, and an end on an afternoon that was actually just one open-ended stretch of time. In doing so, it turns ordinary life into a narrative that has meaning, and that meaningful narrative is what we experience as a vivid memory. The apparent lock the music opens was never a lock. It was a door the mind learned to build so that a melody could walk through it and feel like home. Understanding this does not diminish the beauty. It reveals that the longing we feel is not just for the past, but for the coherence we can construct now. The song on the radio is not a time machine. It is a set of instructions for assembling a temporary bridge between who you are and who you were. And that bridge is real enough to walk on, even if the materials include imagination, emotion, and the wisdom of years you did not have then. Once you see memory as reconstruction rather than replay, the experience of hearing an old song becomes richer, not poorer. You can notice the stitching, the way certain details feel borrowed from photographs or family stories rather than direct recall. You can appreciate the emotional truth the memory carries without demanding that every fragment be factually precise. You can sit with the tenderness the song stirs and recognize that it speaks as much to present longings as to past realities. Practically, this understanding can change how you use music to revisit your own history. You might listen with curiosity rather than certainty, allowing the memory to arrive without insisting it must be a perfect copy of an original event. You might notice how the same song stirs different memories at different ages, revealing the ongoing conversation between your past and present selves. You might share the song with someone you trust and discover that their version of the shared moment is subtly or vastly different. These differences are not failures of memory. They are windows into the way each mind selects and preserves what matters most. The song that seemed to prove you could travel back in time actually proves something more profound. Your identity is a continuous act of creative integration. The music does not unlock a sealed room. It gives you the tools to build one, furnish it with feeling, and stand inside it for the duration of a chorus. Now return to the car and the summer afternoon one last time, not as a passive traveler, but as an active narrator. The orange soda, the backpack strap, the warm pavement, they are genuine threads, but the tapestry they form is woven anew each time the song plays. The song does not give you back your past. It gives you a way to meet it, to listen to it, and to carry it forward with both honesty and compassion. And that meeting, held inside 3 or 4 minutes of melody, is one of the most human acts a mind can perform.